Shalom, shalom, giving honor and praise to the Creator, the Maker of heaven and earth. This is part 4 in Old Testament Brother Responds. This is going to be the conclusion of this particular part right here. Let's go to Ezekiel, the 33rd chapter. We are in Ezekiel chapter 33. We're going to start in verse 14 so we can gain some understanding concerning this kind of matter. Ezekiel 33:14 says, Again, when I say unto the wicked, thou shalt surely die, if he turn from his sin and do that which is lawful and right. If the wicked restore the pledge, give again that which he hath robbed, walk in the statutes of life, without committing iniquity, he shall surely live. He shall not die. None of his sins that he hath committed shall be mentioned upon him. He hath done that which is lawful and right. He shall surely live. So this right here shows you the character of the Most High. It's about doing what's right. It's not about saying, I'm going to keep my sacrifice and my offering. No, it's about turning from your iniquities. So let that be noted and understood. All right, so now let's go, if we will, in light of what we just read. And I mean no disrespect intended to the brothers and sisters who are messianic, as they call themselves. Some of them are my very good friends, relatives, loved ones, so forth and so on. We want to go into one reason why people don't deal with the New Testament, all right? Or why there are what you will call non-Messianic Israelites. Here's one reason. Let's go to Hebrews chapter 9, verse 11. And it says, But Christ, being come and high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, made not with hands, that is to say, not of this building, neither by the blood of goats or calves, but by his own blood he entered in once into the holy place, having obtained eternal redemption for us. For if the blood of bulls and of goats and the ashes of a heifer, sprinkling the unclean, sanctifieth to the purifying of the flesh, how much more shall the blood of Christ, who through the eternal Spirit offered himself without spot to God, purge your conscience from dead works to serve the living God. And for this cause, he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Otherwise, it is of no strength at all while the testator liveth. So, what the author in Hebrews is saying, because some people say Paul, the apostle, wrote Hebrews. Some people say Paul didn't write Hebrews. Well, whoever wrote Hebrews, all right? What the author right here is saying is that just as the people in the Old Testament time, they dealt with the ashes of a heifer and they dealt with the sprinkling of the blood according to the flesh. And if that was a remission for sins in that kind of light, the author of Hebrews is saying, how much more so the blood of Christ, which was made without spot, and he was through his own blood given into the heavens to be a high priest. Now, here is where we, and it's not to be cliquish or anything of that sort, have an issue with this. Let's go, if we will, into verse 16 once again. It says, For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead. So that means that if Christ or Yahushua or Yahshua was the testator and if he was the mediator of the New Testament, that means that according to this author here, his death was necessary. And according to some, they will say yes, in Hebrews chapter 9, that Christ or Yahushua is the mediator of the New Testament and that his death was necessary. So here's the issue, Israel. If his death was necessary because the testament is not enforced while the testator lives, and you're praying in the name of the one who had to have been dead, that means you're praying in the name of the dead. See, I want to sit there and state this again. Let's go and keep your hand there in Hebrews, and let's go into Deuteronomy chapter 18, if we will. We are going back to Deuteronomy chapter 18. We went over a part of it in part 3 of this. But let's go, if we will, in Deuteronomy chapter 18, right? It says this. There shall not be found among you, meaning Israel, anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. For all that do these things are an abomination unto Yah. And because of these abominations, the Most High thy King doth drive them out from before you. So what's being stated, it says what? That you're not supposed to have within Israel one that deals as a necromancer. Now, necromancy, necro means dead. So when you're dealing with necromancing and everything like that, you're conjuring up the dead. You're calling upon the dead. So now if they're saying call upon the name of Christ or call upon the name of who they say is the mediator of the New Testament, while at the same token, the New Testament itself is saying that its mediator had to have been dead for a testament to be enforced, that means you are thus praying in the name of the dead. Let's go over this one more time. Hebrews chapter 9, verse 11. But Christ being come and a high priest of good things to come, by a greater and more perfect tabernacle, made not with hands, that is to say, not of this building. Verse 15, let's go in. It says, and for this cause he, speaking of Yahshua or Christ, and for this cause he is the mediator of the New Testament, that by means of death, for the redemption of the transgressions that were under the first testament, they that which are called might receive the promise of eternal inheritance. For where a testament is, there must also of necessity be the death of the testator. For a testament is of force after men are dead. Otherwise, it is of no strength at all while the testator liveth. Whereupon neither the first testament was dedicated without blood. So now what's being stated when it speaks about the sprinkling of the blood of the bulls or the goats or the heifer, that animal, the bull, the goat, or the heifer, has been slain. So what the author in Hebrews is saying is that the mediator of this New Testament, which is, as many will say, is Christ or Yahushua, that his death was also necessary. So if that's the case, and if a testament is only enforced after the testator is dead, and you, brothers and sisters, no offense intended to any school, is calling upon that same entity, you are thus calling upon the dead. That's against the culture that we read of in Deuteronomy, against the culture of Israel. Now, let's go with the time remaining. Let's go, brothers and sisters, into the book of Matthew. We're going to go to Matthew 5, if you will. Go to Matthew chapter 5, verse 27. Ye have heard that it has been said by them of old time, thou shalt not commit adultery. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her, hath committed adultery with her already in his heart. But I say unto you, that whosoever looketh on a woman to lust after her, hath committed adultery already in his heart. Now, let's go, if we will, to Matthew chapter 19. Bear that in mind you. Let's go to Matthew chapter 19. Let's go in Matthew 19, verse 8. Because while they're saying, oh, he didn't come to destroy the law or the prophets, they're still saying, but behold, I say unto you. So let's go to Matthew chapter 19 and 8. It says, he saith unto them, oh, no, verse 7, let's go in. They say unto him, why did Moses then command to give us a writing of divorcement and to put her away? He saith unto them, Moses, because of the hardness of your hearts, suffered you to put away your wives. But from the beginning it was not so. And I say unto you, whosoever shall put away his wife, except it be for fornication, and shall marry another, committeth adultery. And whosoever marrieth her that is put away doth commit adultery. So he's saying basically that divorce was not in the foundation of marriage, that it wasn't in the beginning. And if you marry a woman who has been divorced, that means then that you are committing adultery. Now let's go to Deuteronomy 24 and see what the Lord says. Because remember, we went over in part 1 and 2 in Jeremiah, it says go to the old ways, go to the old paths. So let's see what part of those old paths said. Deuteronomy chapter 24, we want to start in verse 1. When a man hath taken a wife and married her, and it come to pass that she find no favor in his eyes, because he hath found some uncleanness in her, then let him write her a bill of divorcement and give it her in her hand and send her out of his house. And when she is departed out of his house, she may go and become another man's wife. So, if we're taking what's read right here, you're saying then that in Deuteronomy chapter 24, verse 2, that adultery has then been condoned. If you're saying that if a man marries a woman that's been divorced, that means, according to Matthew chapter 19, verse 8 and 9, whosoever marrieth her that is divorced committeth adultery. So what you then saying in light of the scriptures, because remember, Jeremiah, same book, says go to the old past. It says then, and when she is departed out of his house, she may go and become another man's wife. So are you then saying that the Old Testament that people swear was so harsh and it had no mercy, according to some, are you then saying that the Old Testament is condoning adultery? That's my question. No, brothers and sisters, the Old Testament is not condoning adultery. So let that be noted and understood. All right. Now, verse 3. And if the latter husband hate her and write her a bill of divorcement and give it to her in her hand and sendeth her out of his house, or if the latter husband die, which took her to be his wife, her former husband, which sent her away, may not take her again to be his wife. After that she is defiled, for that is an abomination before the Most High. And thou shalt not cause the land to sin, which the Most High thy King giveth thee for an inheritance. So this right here, let it be noted and understood, brothers and sisters, that if a man marries a woman who is divorced, he's not committing adultery. The wrong comes into play if she's married to brother Ak, and then brother Ner. After brother Ak divorces the sister, then brother Ner marries the sister. So if brother Ner dies, or if brother Ner divorces her, she can't go back to brother Ak. That's what the law in Deuteronomy 24, verse 3 and 4 is talking about. So let that be noted and understood. So divorce is not an abomination in the culture of Israel. It is something that is not always praised. It's not something that you always look forward to, but it's not something that is also totally against the ways of Israel too. Because unfortunately, certain things do happen. It's just as much as when you read in Deuteronomy 21. Verse 18 to 21, if a man have a stubborn and rebellious son who would not listen to the voice of his mother or his father, you bring that child before the elders and you stone him with stones that he die. That's not a pleasant thing to have to do. Just like divorce is not a pleasant thing to have to do. But unfortunately, certain cases come up in which has to be dealt with in certain manners. And that's the law. That's the truth that Antiochus Epiphanes tried to have cast down. So when you go in Daniel and it says they cast the truth down to the ground, that's what it's talking about. So I don't have to sit there and come, brothers and sisters, not that it's about me, with a bunch of different translations and a bunch of different pictures and trying to blow up people's names and trying to embarrass a brother or sister because of a difference of understanding. Because at the end of the day, fearing the Most High and keep His commandments, that's what it's about. After I and everybody else has spoken. So with that, I like to sit there and say shalom. Giving honor and praise to the Creator and the Maker of heaven and earth. Glory be to the Father. And brothers, sisters, stop saying Old Testament brothers can't teach.